Hey there. Welcome back. I'm John Hartness. I'm the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books, and this is 5 things that are earning you rejections. Look, being a writer's hard. It's full of rejection. And as publishers and editors, we don't want to reject your manuscript. I promise we don't. We want to find amazing books to publish. And we do. We find incredible books in submissions, in pitches at conventions. We find great stuff all the time. But it is like digging for gold, y'all. I promise you that you're doing something. If you're not getting published, there are reasons, and it's not because the publisher doesn't like you. We probably don't know you. And we certainly won't let our personal feelings. That's a total lie. If you're a douche, I'm not going to publish you regardless, because I don't have time to work with people I can't tolerate. But I probably don't know you. All I have is your work in front of me, and that has to let you stand out from everything else that comes across my desk, or everything else that I see at a convention when I'm taking pitches. And most of the stuff that I see, I reject. The last time we were open for unsolicited submissions, we picked up 2 titles out of 300 that came in 1 month. That's what you're working against. But here are 5 things that I see writers do most often that gets them from the desk to the round file in an instant. Number 1, I got to put on my readers because I actually have notes and I am old. Number 1, your book starts in the wrong place. I did a workshop many moons ago, and my friend James Tuck and I were reviewing opening chapters for people, and they would give us their openers and we would critique it. We had 5 people that we looked over their opening chapter in a 2-hour, maybe 90-minute to 2-hour panel. 4 of the 5, their book started in the wrong place. En media res is a thing for a reason. It means in the middle of the action. Right there in it. You don't want to make your audience wait, especially when you're an unpublished or barely published writer. You don't have any reader equity. I'll do another video on reader equity so that you have a clue as to what the hell I'm talking about when I say reader equity. We'll even link it once I shoot it. But you don't have any. So all we've got to go on is the words on the page. And those words need to grab us from the jump. The building was on fire and it wasn't my fault. That is an incredible opener. It grabs you right by the throat, and all of a sudden it tells you things, it asks questions. I've done a whole video on openings. You should go watch that. But if your book starts in a dream, I don't care. If your book starts with somebody waking up and getting ready for school, and then halfway through 3rd period, the Russians parachute into the football field and everybody gets in the back of the pickup truck and yells, "Wolverines!" Start in 3rd period. Don't start at breakfast. You have to hook us. Every piece of your book buys you the next thing. Everything in your story gets you the next thing. The first sentence buys you the second sentence. The second sentence buys you the third. The first paragraph buys you the next paragraph, which buys you the next paragraph, which might buy you the whole first page, which then buys you the next page and the next. And then you get to where you've bought the whole chapter. And then that buys you chapter 2. But everything has to be moving. Everything has to hook. I know that some of your favorite books don't do this. I don't care. This is 2025 and you are an unpublished author. If you're not, then this video really isn't for you, now is it? But if you're an unpublished author in 2025 and you're looking to get published, don't tell me how Tolkien or Frank Herbert or George R.R. Martin or Robert Jordan or Brandon Sanderson did it. Because none of them would do it that way today. This is a different world. This is how you get published in commercial genre fiction in the 21st century. If you want to write like J.R.R. Tolkien, and you can invent a time machine and go back to England in the 1940s and 50s, you should have a pretty good shot at getting published there. But if you start putting Tom Bombadil and songs in your book in 2025 and nobody's ever heard of you and you have not proven that you can pay off a story, then you ain't selling a book. Sorry. So go ahead, flood the comments with all of the, oh, well, so-and-so did it this way and so-and-so did it this way, and I still don't care. Because you ain't got a contract, so you don't get to do it that way. Thank you. Number 2, world building at the expense of character and plot. World building is like your underwear. You need it. You need it to keep everything in the right place and all tied together and keep it from wiggling around and getting loose on everybody. And I don't ever need to see it. If I can tell that this entire paragraph is world building, then you have screwed up as a writer. If you have such lush, brilliantly crafted settings that I can't not read it, then you're amazing. Good on you. Otherwise, you better sprinkle that crap in the middle of action, in the middle of dialogue, and in times when it is advancing the character and the plot. Because nobody is buying a book today because the world building is brilliant. People buy books because they have characters that they can't live without, or characters that they want to live with in many, many ways, or that the action is so exciting that they can't wait to see what happens next. They don't care how pretty the flowers are. You want to have it, but you want to sprinkle your world building in throughout the book. If you have paragraphs and paragraphs explaining how a building looks, you'd better be one of the best writers I've ever seen. Because otherwise, you ain't getting a contract. Too many of you are ignoring genre conventions on word counts. This is back to I don't give a shit what George R.R. Martin and Brandon Sanderson and Patrick Rothfuss and Robert Jordan did. Because Brandon has also written 70,000 word books when the genre and the story needed it. He's written novellas. He's also written Chihuahua Killers. And that's what you're going to argue with me about, is that Brandon is the biggest selling fantasy writer of the time, and he writes these big chonkin' doorstops. And you are right, he is, and he does. And he's very, very good at it. And he's also very good at writing 40,000 word novellas and 70,000 word YA books, because you don't write 300,000 word YA books. And you don't write your first book at 350,000 words. Because they're expensive as piss to print. They're expensive to edit. They're expensive to produce. And if no one knows you, no one is spending that money on you. Young adult novels float between 50 to 80,000 words nowadays. So if you have a YA novel and you are seeking traditional publishing and your novel is 150,000 words, then you should either chop the crap out of it or you should age up your protagonist and your environment so that it's not a YA novel, or better yet, both. Cut the crap out of it and then age them up a little, because YA is a really tough market in the year of our Lord 2025. Mystery, thriller, high fantasy, adventure fantasy style, and urban fantasy, they all kind of live in the 75 to 110,000 word range. You go a little on the lower end of that for cozies, they can be as tight as 60K if you really do it well. Your romanticides are going to go a little longer because you've got multiple things you're layering in. Your romanticides may be 125, 130,000 words, but that's the upper end. Your straight romance novels are your 55 to 75, maybe 80,000 words. And yes, in publishing, we live and die by word count because page counts are irrelevant. One, you change the page count every time you adjust the font size on your Kindle. And two, the font control, the font, the spacing, the kerning, the leading, all of that contributes to the page count. I can manipulate a 90,000 word book to have the same page count as a 120,000 word book in layout. So don't talk to me in pages, talk to me in word count. Epic fantasy is your big boys, but unknown new writers, your epic fantasy is still looking for 95 to 125,000 words, because big publishing is not taking a chance on somebody with no track record at 300,000 words. R.R. Verdi is a fantastic epic fantasy writer, and his first book with Tor is a chunk. It's a hoss of a book. It's also not his first book. He had a Nebula nomination and 2 Dragon Award nominations before he ever sold the book to Tor. He had proven that he could write a book and that he could pay off the investment in story that he was asking them to make. So yeah, I know. Blah, blah, insert writer name here, writes this giant book and they're great. They are the exception that proves the rule. And if you are trying to get in the door, follow the rules. Don't try to be the exception. Number 4. Oh, good. I got the right number of fingers up. Look, that's a red letter day around here. If I wanted to do math a whole lot, I wouldn't have stopped after high school. Yeah, I never took a math class after high school. I passed the AP Calc exam as a senior and couldn't tell you a derivative from a polynomial function at this point. Probably couldn't have when I was a senior either. Anyway, number 4, your protagonist is either A, boring, or B, a jerk. We need to like the person we're spending hours and hours and hours with. Let's take a book I just finished listening to recently, Holly by Stephen King. Congrats, Uncle Steve, you stuck the landing. This has got the best ending of a Stephen King book I've read in a long time. Great work by a master of the craft. Holly Gibney is the protagonist, and she is an odd little duck. She starts off as a secondary character in an earlier book, and this is her really big, she's the boss lady moment. She's this kind of spectrum-y, kind of OCD, hypochondriac, odd little mouse of a woman who won't swear and says things are poopy, and she's so damned fascinating that you cannot turn away from this character. There's no reason I should have been that fascinated by this character except King, who is a master of creating story and character, made her so interesting and put such depth to her that a character that I wouldn't necessarily want to hang out with was somebody I spent almost 16 hours listening to her book and immediately bought the next one called Never Flinch, which I'm into right now. So if you are writing a character who's just a bag of dicks, you got to save the cat. If you don't know what I mean, then you should go out and you should buy the book Save the Cat. You can do Save the Cat Writes a Novel, which is a spinoff of the book Save the Cat, which was created for screenplays. But what it means is that if you're going to write a character that's kind of a douche, you got to give them some reason, some redeeming quality. Maybe Lex Luthor wants to take over the world, but he does stop by and feed his neighbor's cat. And that gives us enough to keep going. Also, Lex Luthor, snazzy dresser. But you get what I'm saying. Your main character, the one that we are going to live with every moment of this book, cannot be boring, and they cannot be an asshole, unless they're at least an entertaining asshole. Joe Abercrombie got away with this in The Blade itself, because practically everyone in that book is loathsome. But Joe Abercrombie is an absolute master craftsman, and he can pull it off, because everything else in the book was so fascinating. And Nine Fingers was pretty cool, even though he was still a horrible person. But we liked him. That's enough. We had one character that we liked enough, and the words were brilliant, and the story was fantastic, and the setting was great. That's just enough. But you cannot have a character that is completely horrible and make us want to spend 10, 12, 20, 50 hours with them. Go save the cat. And number 5, and y'all gonna love this one. Adverbs. You've heard this before. I am not the first person to tell you that your book needs fewer adverbs. I am not the first person to tell you that adverbs are out of fashion and that you need to use fewer of them. I know this because it's been said since before I started writing fiction 16 years ago. Was my first published book. Here's why. It's not enough for me to say, no, you can't have your adverbs. Here's why you can't have your adverbs. Because you cannot be trusted to use them responsibly. I'm joking. A little tiny bit joking. Adverbs are a crutch that you use when you don't want to take the time to come up with a really interesting adjective or verb. Take a second and let that sink in. Live with that for a moment. I'm telling you that if you use better verbs and adjectives, you don't need adverbs. Instead of walking quickly across the room, you can dash. You can hustle, you can stride, you can run, you can sprint, you can tap dance, you can moonwalk. You can get across the room a lot of different ways instead of walking smoothly. You can glide. Find better verbs, and you will use fewer adverbs naturally. And then your word count goes down because you're not using all this flippin' adverb. You're going to get closer to conforming to the genre expectations for word counts. And that will help you get published. Yes, you will find publishers who love your adverbs. I don't know who they are. They almost certainly aren't doing much in the way of urban fantasy. In commercial genre fiction, we are living and dying by immersion. We want to suck people into the world of our characters and our stories, and we don't want to let them go. Adverbs create distance from the reader and the story. Cut out that distance, get your readers engulfed in your story, and that editor becomes your publisher. That slush reader passes your book along to the editor. That acquiring editor passes it along to the managing editor. Get rid of your adverbs, tighten up your prose, start your book in the right place, hide your world building, pay attention to the traditional length of a book in your genre, and make your protagonist interesting and appealing, and you will have a much greater chance at getting published. These are not pretty truths. These are not happy truths. These are just truths. You, as an unpublished or barely published writer, have to do things the way you are expected to do things until you publish multiple books, prove yourself, and then you can break all the rules. So those are 5 things that are earning you rejections. Stop doing those 5 things, get out there, and get published. Thanks, y'all.